So we're definitely live. I'm actually absolutely excited to have Ben return to our screens, Ingela, and then we've got Mia. You guys all have incredible achievements. And so I'm super privileged to just have this conversation with you. I intend on being a fly on the wall. I think everybody who has signed up has signed up not to listen to me, but to listen to all of you, right? So with that, I thought before we dive in, maybe we can just talk a little bit about our background, each of you. And maybe you can start with Mia, since it's the first time you're on the Cavago Social, and I met you a few years ago, but I'm sure so many people want to know you more.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Taz. Yeah, I'm really quite new to this, I guess, and I'm super honored to be here and amongst some incredible people. Honestly, I've been watching some of the earlier talks as well, and I've really enjoyed listening in on everyone there. Yeah, I guess I've always loved horses. I've been one of those horse crazy girls as well, and I always wanted to have that kind of relationship and connection with my horse that you saw in films like The Black Stallion, and having that, the horse wanting to be with you and just having that incredible communication with another animal. And I was always really drawn to them. And I started like any normal girl at a local riding school before I was able to kind of have my own pony and move on to then having a lone pony, who was really the one that kicked off my natural horsemanship journey. And I started with Pirelli. That's where I found the first start of learning about liberty and building that relationship with your horse. And I was initially inspired by Rachel Morland and her horse Phoenix galloping down the beach bareback and bridleless, and after hearing about her challenges with him and how she had a complete turnaround with their relationship, and being able to achieve and really live her dream, and that got me hooked. So at 13 years old, I decided that my whole life was going to be dedicated to learning everything I could about these incredible creatures. And so I got started, jumped in, and through my teenage years worked with lots of different horses. I was then a working student for 2 years with Liz and Sean Coleman. And over that time learned from hundreds of different incredible professionals as well. I then got given a full scholarship to go and learn from Pat and Linda directly. So had an amazing time in the States. Learned so much from the Pirellis. It was incredible, and made some incredible connections, some amazing friends, and returned back to the UK and met a great, another incredible mentor who was Peter Madison Greenwell, who was a classical dressage trainer, and started kind of tying in the two worlds, because I really then saw the importance of having your horse be gymnastic and strong and supple and flexible, but still whilst keeping mental and emotional connections strong and without looking too much at the physical. So how could I combine these two worlds? And really now that's where I'm at. I've started experimenting and playing with that from that moment on. I was then given the opportunity to work with lots of different much higher quality horses, like dressage background horses, a few stallions, and again was loving the connection that I was able to kind of establish with all these horses, and then kind of got my own business running and going a bit, and met Ben, and learned so much from Ben. He was a phenomenal friend and teacher, and just had loads of fun really as well, just playing ponies. And then more recently I've now joined I was on the squad last year, but this year is our first year of hopefully being able to compete in working equitation. So I'm now learning from Paulo Santos as well. which is really exciting. And the progress in myself and my horse spirit is just phenomenal. So I'm really, really honoured. And just loving life, really, being able to live the dream every day, play with horses. I get to teach a wonderful bunch of students I've got, still able to teach during lockdown as well, which is great. And just, living the dream every day.
That's so interesting. And before I dive in, you're talking about working equitation. I just interviewed Rebecca Algar and Pedro Torres.
Yes, I was watching.
That was so cool. So that's awesome. We'll talk about that. It's your lives, all three of you, has been pretty intertwined. In fact, mine too, by proxy.
You have all the same passions, right?
We're literally bucketed together here, and I'm like the smallest in this bucket. I'm like a great size. But
we wouldn't be here without you, Paz.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be here without you, so it's a really messy situation. But with that, I thought before Ben, I get into your background, and I want to hear some really interesting stories with you and Mia, because you had a lot of fun, and I want to learn about that. I wanted to sort of get into the history of this a little bit with Ingela, because because Ingela taught many of the people that you guys learned from or worked with, which is so interesting. And then I want to deep dive into how we talk about maybe a specific movement, like perhaps the PF. How do you teach it? Why do you teach it? What is the expression? So I'm already giving you the heads up and the audience the heads up of what we're going to talk about. And with that, Ingela, over to you.
Well, first of all, I'm super excited about you, Mia, and you, Ben, because you guys are young and you have like your whole future ahead of you, and you're already so good with horses. Like, this just makes me super happy, and I just get to be the grandma here, which is awesome.
No.
Yes. So I just wanted to start off saying that, and I'm really cheering you on, both of you, on your journeys. I get to see little snippets here and there. Taz, did you want me to share a little bit of the history?
Of course, yes, please. I want to learn about the history, because in essence, by proxy, you've inspired Ben and Mia, and there's this whole movement, which was horsemanship, which was a little dot in the world. Now it's become like this big thing, and we're all over the world.
And even in the horsemanship development, it's going more and more and more toward what my passion is, which is a true connection, a heart connection with the horse, not just patterns, not a dominant way of training, however, still achieving the highest levels of movement and being connected with the horse, right? So this is exciting, and this is kind of where the natural horsemanship is heading now. Can you hear me okay? My audio is fuzzy.
Yeah, you can hear you fine.
Oh, I'll just keep going there. Yeah. So me personally, I grew up in a skyscraper in a suburb of Bern, in the capital in Switzerland, totally away from horses. And by the age of 2, I was super passionate about horses. That's all I wanted to do. And there was not a horse in sight anywhere. Eventually I managed to get a guinea pig. So that was a really big bonus. But just a living situation, I wasn't on a farm or outside. So I started kind of late, but I started traditionally. I trained at Grand Prix level in dressage. I evented at advanced intermediate eventing. This is in Great Britain, because I moved there when I was around 20. And then I had earlier on, 10 years earlier, I don't know if it was 10 years, I had met Pat Pirelli, like you, Mia, mentioned. I met him on his first trip to Switzerland, and I went to take my mother to that course because she was afraid of horses. And he said, if you're afraid, come here, come to this course. So I picked up quite a few just natural horsemanship principles in this course that I applied by myself. And then winding the clock forward, I think it was 1999, I ran into Pat while I was on a holiday in the States, and I didn't know he had a system, etc. But I said, oh, this is great what these people can do. I'd like to be able to do that, have like several horses at liberty and ride bareback and bridles and jump and stuff. And he said, well, you have to, go home to England and go through my system. And I super applied myself. And at that time, I became the fastest in the world to get to level 3. And I got to skip any 1 or 2 star. I got straight to 3-star instructor. And that's why, Mia, I then had the privilege to teach some of the people that like Aaron and Rachel was my intern. And that's how we intertwine in the journeys, because Rachel came to me with Phoenix, and I was had basically an open space for an intern, and she couldn't ride very good. She was kind of bouncing on that crazy Arabian up and down my hills, and I'm like, oh boy, But I felt in my heart, yep, this girl is going to be a great freestyle rider. So I took her, and turned out that she became one of the best freestyle riders, right, in the UK. So that's super awesome. So I had the privilege to teach, over 5,000 students worldwide, a lot of them in England. I had the privilege to travel to very many nations. I fixed racehorses in Turkey. I was in Dubai. I had the privilege to go to the palaces of the sheikhs and help figuring out some of the problems they run into with their stallions. And that's how I connected to Taz. We met in Dubai, right, Taz? And then Taz came to our place in the UK and became a friend and a roommate to my now husband. So this is how the stories intertwine. And then, because my kind of natural horsemanship hero is Frédéric Pinois, because I just love the amount of not only connection he has with the horses, but the understanding and how much the horses love him back. You can really see this love bubble. And I've been teaching for years about the love bubble, where a spectator can see that. They can see there's this special magic going on between the person and the horse. And it captivates you, and you go, oh my goodness, what is this? And you never get it when you do patterns, or you just teach the horse. Even at liberty, the horse is not necessarily free, right? It's an internal freedom. So we can not allow the horse to be free just with our attitude and how we control him in our heart. So that journey of actually allowing the horse to come into the fullness of freedom, the fullness of expression, and fully connected to us and still following us as the lead. So we don't have to be like dominant or passive. I think that's a wonderful journey. And this is how I ran into Ben, because I went to a Frédéric Pinois clinic, and Ben brought along my favorite horse. It's not my horse, but he had it right there at the end of the line. And I'm like, why? Why is this not mine? No, just kidding, Ben. But I was like, I so wanted that guy. So it was a black stallion, and he was very nervous. He piaffed the whole night in the stable, all the time. And he was screaming at the mirror. Yes. But he's a beautiful horse. And I thought, oh, this is nice, So I got the privilege to watch Ben, who has such a high level of horsemanship. And I got the privilege to watch him have a lesson with Frédéric Pinois. And so that's how we got connected. So here we are today. It's wonderful. So I'm pretty excited.
That's brilliant, because you already talked about this black horse that was piaffing all the time. So Ben, why don't you take it from there? Because I definitely want to take this strand of piaff and extend it all the way.
Okay.
So over to you.
Well, where do you want me to start? I mean,
start from the start and take it from there.
Well, quickly about me, I've worked horses all my life. Father, grandfather, always been horsemen. I've been performing since I was 11, but before that, I've done showing, I've done show jumping, I've driven horses all my life. Horses, everything. Nothing like that's all that everything's existed. And then I've grown up in this magical, weird world, working horses in shows and on films with my family and with dozens of other fantastic people, and being privileged to live in a world where everything is possible. The boundaries of what you and your horse can achieve are so created by your own mind. It's as natural for a horse to perform the capriole at liberty as it is for the horse to wear a head collar and be led around the stable. It's just that some things we've decided are okay because we're more used to them. And it's so splitting the mind away from that idea of the possible and the impossible. And so I think that idea of mindset is something that I was so privileged with as growing up in this weird and wonderful world. Along with that, really just being as honest with myself, even from being a kid. I've only really had I've had 3 specific lessons in Liberty, 2 clinics with Frederick, one that Ingela came to watch me at, and one with another friend who worked Circus Liberty. And apart from that, it's purely been trial and error, which is something that I think is so important for everyone, realizing where you've got a gap and either looking for help to fix it, or they're just trying to read the horse if you're unable to get that help, seeing very honestly with yourself where you're going wrong and what the horse is telling you, which is how I ended up at this clinic with Frederick, because I had this beautiful black horse. He's far too small. I mean, I'm going to call him a pony, to be honest. He's really, really not very big.
What breed was he?
He's pure Andalusian, black Andalusian.
Luckily, I've got the bigger version.
You've got, yeah.
I like small horses.
Black
I've got his nephew.
Yeah.
If you
could,
yes, she has.
And look at Ingela, she's like, I'm coming over.
If you could take Goloso and make him 16 hands, you could sell him and buy like a jumbo jet. He'd be worth so much because he's so perfect. But he's not. He's pocket sized, and that's how I can afford him. But he came to us, and he was such a stressed out horse, which connects quite nicely into what you're saying about wanting to move on and talk about the Piaffe. So one of the reasons I had him at Frederick's clinic was when he's performing, when this horse is in work and his mind is busy, as many of us will know, especially as a grander scheme, maybe the lockdown everyone's been living in, or in a smaller scheme, especially for us in England, over the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of snow. We've not been able to keep our minds busy with our horses. And I know definitely myself, my anxiety, my worries, they've come onto me because I've not had that mental outlet, that mental connection to keep me busy. And it's the same for a horse like Goloso. When he was at the shows and performing, he was fantastic. He was easy. You could ride him without a bridle. You could lay him down. He would lay on his back and roll, and with his legs in the air, perfect. But it was in those times between shows when he was left to his own devices with his own brain that he'd become very stressed, and he would piaffe at the door. And I was struggling to think what I could do to help. So that's why I went to find a man like Frederick, who works so famously with such fiery horses and all stallions, so what a better man to go to. And what he was teaching me that in that clinic was this idea of being an emotional anchor to the horse, and we need to teach the horse to then find comfort in relaxation. So in the same way that we would praise a horse for, let's choose something not simple, I'm not going to say simple in terms of teaching or performance, but simple in terms of we can all imagine it in our heads. We have a horse, say, who can Spanish walk. But when we ask him to Spanish walk, he strikes with the leg, he becomes stressed. And maybe when he does this, we get great height from the shoulder. But although the physical appearance that the horse is giving us is very majestic and very wonderful, the energy behind that movement is negative. It's stressed. So we can't simply build training or build perfection through what we see through our naked eye. We need to look deeper into the horse. So he was teaching me about this idea of asking not only for the movement, but asking and praising for a certain emotional state within the movement. Because if we get a lot of horses, especially horses that have been rushed through their training that come to us, Piaffe especially, I'll ask people if they say my horse is trained to Piaffe, and I can't say it this plainly because I hate to be rude, but what we're trying to ask them is, does your horse have a specific Piaffe cue, a way you can translate your request for Piaffe, or are you holding him back and applying pressure until he begins to paddle on the spot? Because then that's not really true Piaffe, it's not what we're aiming for. And what we're trying to aim all the time is this comprehension within the horse, and the fact that the horse will be seeking this level of relaxation and comfort within the movement, in all movements. And when they can learn to find relaxation in those movements with the guidance of a trainer, then they can learn to relax within those movements in their own time and then fully relax more completely.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Really good. Perfect explanation, Ben, because, I always start off saying we need to go from relaxation to relaxation, because in a Piaffe there is collection. We're not calling that the outer relaxation, it's an outward engaged move. a collective movement, but the inner state of the horse needs to always be at peace. So a little way people could actually maybe test that, maybe for some of the viewers, you know, if you have that or not. Can you, for example, go from a trot in a long and low frame, a medium trot, and then bring your horse into a piaffe and straight back into a long and low trot without the change of rhythm? Or when you want to go back to a stretch, your horse is not stretching, or he stays nervous or tense inside. That then gives you a really good indication that all along inside the piaffe, he was not at peace and he didn't have a level of relaxation. And whenever we do not have relaxation in motion, fear is present. Because it's fear driven, you know. So fear and anxiety cause this. It's the opposite of relaxation. So it's super important, because if the horse is not in that state of peace and relaxation inside, he is doing a movement out of fear. Fear of what? Maybe the stick, the cue, the human, not getting it right. He's not clear. He's not sure what is asked, you know. And then he stops being a happy athlete. Then we're back in that place where the relationship breaks, you know.
Yeah, I think that can start so much earlier on. Like, we're talking now about horses that can work within the piaffe, but I would say, for example, at the moment, I'm working with quite a few dressage horses on introducing them to the piaffe. And I think you build any movement, you build a movement like the piaffe, like you build a house, it's one brick, then another. And if one brick is flawed or fractured, then the other will have a more unstable base on the top. I mean, a great place I think for anyone to start with their piaffe work, if they're going to teach it in hand, which I would always recommend, always train it in hand. If I took you to the gym for your first day, I wouldn't throw you to do pull-ups with a weighted vest on straight away. You want to learn the movement first. If you are training in hand, the first thing you need to be able to make sure is that the horse is listening to you on the floor calmly and collectedly. So can you walk him? And then does he stop as soon as you stop? Not with a cue, but when you stop, he stops. If you apply pressure to the halter or the cavesson or the bridle, whichever tool you've decided is best for you and your horse on your journey, will the horse move backwards? Will the horse come forwards as you ask? Can you control the speed? If they begin to turn their hindquarters into the arena or out of the arena, can we correct that without any added stress or any higher levels of pressure? Because if we can't do those things, then we're not yet ready to start progressing to the piaffe. Because if we try and build a piaffe with a horse who panics when we ask him to half halt off the bridle or the halter, he panics as we start to correct his hindquarters, because of course we need straightness before we can build upon anything else, then we have a stressed beginning, and on top of that we can only build more stress.
Right, and it's exactly right. And creating a fearless horse is the absolute key to everything, because you know, our horses can't be afraid of motion, noise, or touch. All three areas we need to make sure we cover, not only in the standstill, but of course also in motion. And there's a lot of, I don't know how many viewers are, you know, into natural horsemanship, but there's a lot of people who are very aware of advance and retreat and using noise and motion and touch and advance and retreat to habituate the horse. And this is good, but I like to, you know, I love to take it a step further, a little deeper, where you go to the place where your horse reads the direction of your energy. So, for example, let's say we have a horse facing us and we are able to swing a stick and string and make a lot of noise and motion if the horse is standing still or is walking toward us or is in the backup. Now, can we, for example, not make a break? So I always test it. Is the horse still watching the stick or is he truly reading my energy? So most people are able to drop their energy and swing something. Then they get their energy up and ask the horse to move, right? And then they drop their energy, the horse stops. Like most people can do that. But can we do this? Can we, for example, have our energy directed at the horse? Say we're in front of his head and we're going toward him and he's going backward, right? He's facing us, but he's going backward and we're walking toward him. can we have our energy directed toward him as we're backing up, and we can swing the stick and string at the same time and he's not worried? And can we then stop the direction of the energy toward him and disperse it? So the energy goes up, but we don't drop it. Don't let it sink into the ground. We keep it up, but it's no longer directed at the horse. It's dispersed. And does he know it's stopped? So it's one of the things then that you might be using unconsciously at a distance, right? Because I'm just saying unconsciously because of our last discussion, okay? Because when I watch you, I think I see it. I need to watch you live, then I will know. But just saying, it's a cool thing. And Mia, you can experience this that too. If you can communicate your horse that dispersed energy doesn't mean movement, okay? And at the same time, you get your horse to really not be afraid of the stick. You can do such cool things at Liberty because, for example, let's take something simple. You ask your horse to canter in your energy and you stay connected with the horse's energy. So you're cantering inside and the energy is flowing to the horse and around the circle. And let's say the horse is at 20 meters. And let's say you're easily able to swing your stick and string and hop and dance. As long as you keep your energy flowing, your horse keeps cantering because you're in the we. You're cantering as a herd, you internally, horse externally. But can you then disperse your energy? So rather than it keeps flowing with the horse, it goes up and out and your horse instantly stops on that circle out there. It's a cool concept to practice with. And then to test, if he's really not worried about the stick, can you immediately throw the stick up high in the air? Not as a cue to stop, because that we can do too, right? But as a test, does he not think it means go? Because your energy in your body is still high. It's not medium and it's not low. And I just found once we start to play with that stuff, a whole new world opens up. And it's super fun, especially when you play with multiple horses, because you have to still have energy in your body to communicate with several to go left. So for the one that stopped, you just disperse the energy, it goes no longer toward him. So I found that a really fun principle.
Mia, you wanted to come in. I can see you wanted to jump into this conversation.
Yeah. I love that, Ingela, so much. And it was actually something I brought up in a lesson earlier today, was the horse reading your intention and your thought, and using your energy to speak to each horse. And the student asked, she has 2 horses that she's playing with at Liberty now, so her first pair. And we're maybe like 4 sessions in, and we're playing with some really cool stuff, and she's loving it. Horses are loving it. And she goes, well, how does this one know that I'm speaking to him and not to the other one? And I go, oh, well, it's in your thought and it's in your intention. And horses are the world's ultimate prey animal, as we know, and it's they're programmed to read a predator's thoughts and predator's intentions. And what are we? We're predators. So, of course, they can see what we're thinking. And often, if people are thinking about the worst possible case scenario, if they're out on a hack or, schooling their horse and they're thinking about their horses spooking or bolting, sure enough, it actually ends up happening. So if you can really start to picture your perfect image and have that thought and your intention before you even, start moving physically, the horses can really begin to connect to that as well. So my the student earlier, she really began to cast a thought and an intention to one of her horses, and he'd go off and we were looking at circles in different directions, so he'd start his left-hand circle, and then she'd change her intention to her other horse and say, okay, let's start our right-hand circle. And we were seeing just how little that could take and how little it took to cause her horses to really harmonize with her thoughts and intentions and read her at before she was even moving physically. And that was really, really cool. And everything you've just gone over there, Ingela, was exactly what we were trying to get to grips with. You've explained it so eloquently. It's just incredible. I absolutely love hearing about all of this so much.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? And just on another note, of course, in in the beginning, the horse might view us as a predator because we look like one, we act like one. But it's really important that we, even on that, Mia, we come away from thinking we are that, because they do pick up on our thoughts. So I always offer myself to my horse as the lead, like the lead mare, the one that takes care of the herd, the one that can be trusted to make the best decision, the one that they can come to be at total rest and peace, So the horse knows if it runs to me, I'm going to make sure everything is okay, and that then creates a place of safety.
And a friend.
Friend, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just love to say, going back, we were talking there about this idea of energy and directing energy to a particular horse within a group of horses, and that idea of picturing what you want and holding that in your mind. I think a great example for anyone who owns horses and you're maybe new on natural horsemanship, maybe you don't do any. We've all had that day when we're leading one horse in from the field and there's another horse trying to get towards us. That's when you, as an everyday horse person, have used this skill without even knowing it. Because while you're doing this, you're leading your one horse in. You do not want to spook or raise the energy of the horse you're trying to bring in from the field. But we've all been stood there shaking our hand or a bucket or a head collar or whatever we have to hand to try and get the other horses to go away so we can get to the gate without any trouble. In that, it's a basic example, but it's time that every horse person has directed larger energy at one horse and a calmer to another, and it's an example of showing how you've been doing it even subconsciously. So if you can do it subconsciously, you can definitely do it consciously.
It's a great example. I love it.
I think there's a bit of a segue in this, because there's somebody who's asked a question, a couple of people who've asked a question. So maybe we can continue this discussion on how we're transferring energy after we've addressed a couple of these questions.
Yeah.
So on our screens on the right-hand side under the stage, Soraya from Portugal is asking us a question. So she says, hello, I have a couple of questions if you could help me. For context, I'm a beginner rider and I'm interested in positive reinforcement training. And the Lima approach. I'm afraid I've not heard of the Lima approach. You may have. She has a 9-year-old Lusitano cross stallion with little training, but very good temperament, calm, and learns quickly. Where do you recommend I start? Being that he's a stallion, should there be other steps I have to take to be safe? That's a question.
Okay, I can start answering that a little bit. Soraya, the important part with a stallion is that we never take the dominant role, because the stallion can take that as a challenge. Now, if, let's say, you are an extremely dominant person and an excellent horseman, then your stallion probably wouldn't challenge you. But if he is high up in the ranking, he can have a great temperament and still be high up in the ranking. For safety reasons, it's really important not to take a dominant role and not to take a passive role, but to take the role of the lead. Because in a herd structure, we have 3 types of horses, and the lead mare is the one that makes all the decisions in the herd and where they go, when they go, and the rest follow her. She never worries about herd structure and pushes the other horses around. That's the job of the dominant stallion that she's in pair bond with, and he's usually at the back of the herd. Now, the relationship goes like this. Leads share space. So as the lead, all the space belongs to you. When you're working with your horse, the whole arena is yours. It is actually yours. But you're nice, and because you're nice, you're going to share certain spaces with your horse. Maybe a circle around you, but not the other part of the arena. You choose, because it's all your space, you choose what space you share, just like the lead does. Stallions will go and claim a spot. They say, get out of there, that is my spot, and I'm taking that. But leads share. That's why in a herd situation, you can see how a lead horse will give up space in the herd. She doesn't get into a physical fight, but she proves her leadership mentally by thinking. So you need to be the one that becomes your horse's lead, because the dominant stallion in the herd backs the lead mare up. It's his job. It's his job to help the lead mare accomplish what she wants. And this is, if I'm pulling it back to the piaffe, how, in my opinion, we can get a better piaffe without doing anything. So let's say we have taught the horse to piaffe, basic piaffe, and it's relaxed and it has understood all the steps, but we would like more, and it's a stallion. So I only sometimes work with stallions. Ben works with stallions a lot more all the time, right? So if we can get a stallion to see us as the lead mare, his heart is not going to be, well, maybe today I beat you, maybe today you're weak, maybe today I'm stronger. He's not going to do that. If he sees you as the lead, he's going to go, wow, there is the lead. How can I help you? And he's going to look at you, Mia, or look at you, Ben, or look at me and go, yeah, great. I can do it faster. I can do it higher. I can sit down more behind. I can put more power into it. And he's going to look for a way to help you do what you want. And it's beautiful. So, Soraya, the key is to become a lead. Yes, Ben, you go.
Yeah, I would just say with stallions, it's very much, I think stallions more than, firstly, this whole gender thing with horses really, really annoys me. It's just below breeding on my things that annoy me about people talking about horses. Like, I don't care how your horse is bred, and I don't care if it's still got its balls or if it's a mare or if it's a horse. Get on with it. But one thing to think about when you're working with a stallion is we always go for this word dominant because we're scared of them. We've all heard about some stallion attack, or we've seen it on TikTok, or we've done, it's in our heads. I would try and not think of dominance. I'd think that they're proud. Now, if you meet someone who's very proud and you wish to get them to go along with your ideas and change their ideas to go like yours, it needs to be done like a game of chess. You can still be leading the way, but you must do it in a way where they see the point of each thing. I would keep sessions shorter so the animal doesn't get bored and doesn't start trying to outmatch you as you fatigue mentally and physically. And don't start the fight. Stallions will grow to be the children that you give them the nurture to become. If you are overly strong with a stallion, he's stronger than you and he will defend himself. If you're overly weak, he will take advantage. We've all seen a parent with a child in the supermarket who's getting a hard time because they've always given them what they want. It's about finding that balance. A great thing I can also say to you with a stallion is if you're feeling like you're going to lose your temper, maybe just today groom him. If you're feeling weak or vulnerable, or maybe go for a trail ride. Don't try and school him. You need to just work a little bit more, a bit more like a game of chess. If you want an argument, you'll get one and you'll lose. But it's about avoiding that.
Ben, can I share a story? I'm compelled to. Even though I said I'd be a fly on the wall, but I think in this situation I must.
You always lay down your part.
I'm not a great horse person. I'm very interested in horses. Although I've learned from Ingela, and I remember when Mia, when I was catching up with you, I was sitting next to a lady, and she said, "Who taught you?" And I said, "Ingela Larsson." And she was like, "Oh, you must be really good." And I was like, "Me?" No. So anyhow,
she lives on there.
Who you me? Anyhow, so the story is that I was working with an Arabian stallion who clearly had issues with a stick, right? The Arabian horses are trained to stand proud, and inside they're really nervous, right? With the plastic bags being waved around them, and so this beautiful gray stallion, I got to know him, and he wasn't that bad. Ingela, you might remember him, Daraj. And he, after a while, I could do some liberty with him. And if you put a little bit of pressure on his ribs, he'd give with his ribs and hindquarter yield, ask him to go the other way. I thought, that's a great game. And then he'd go further out and he'd rear up because he could and spin around and then come back Arabian, and he was a lot of fun. So this process over 3 months became something that began to garner a bit of an audience, right? People around me began to go, wait a minute, that nice looking gray horse that used to bite people doesn't really bite him. He's just really, extravagant. And the point you made about being proud, right? I think we have to control our own pride as well, because I remember this one day where I didn't have a good feeling. I just didn't have a good feeling. And I said, no, I'm just going to play with him. And by then, around this paddock that we used to play in, there would always be a few people. And on this day, there were probably a few more people. And I thought, I have really got to show him what I can do with this horse, So I took off the rope halter and sent him away. And he did his thing, fizzes around as Arabians do, And then there was a part of me that said, I shouldn't, and we should just go and have some grass. But I didn't. And the next thing I knew was that he was charging at me, and he attacked me, and he bit me here. He said I have a scar. And I lost a tooth. And I ended up in hospital with a ripped shirt, which I couldn't really explain, right? And it would have been easy if I said, you should have seen the other guy, but it was a horse. But the lesson I learned in that was, I should have listened to that little voice that said, "Don't be proud."
Well, even more, the fact your mind came off the stallion at Liberty and became that voice, that was the problem.
You got it.
Not even that you should have stopped, but that your brain went off. I tell a lot of my students, and here's a wide ball, so it's a bit odd. I think when you're learning Liberty, if you can get into it, listening to fantasy or reading fantasy books with any concept of people learning magic is fantastic, because you have all this idea of like, you need to hold this in your mind and it will keep it with you. And then when your mind breaks or you think of something else, the spell breaks. That is Liberty. If you're working that stallion, you take your mind off him. He knows. We've all seen Animal Planet. We know when they see, you're gone. Now it's my time. So that's what I would say. The problem is more.
I learned more in those 5 seconds than I probably would have in the course of 2 years, because
good.
And I thought normally I wouldn't share it, but I thought I would share it because it's so important to listen to yourself, and it's so important to know what your own abilities are, and also know that when you're engaging in something, you must be focused. Yeah. Just because you need to be, for your own safety, in the case of an Arabian stallion that previously was chased by plastic bags. That's just a thing. But
that's something. That's something that I love to talk about, is like flow states and being completely 100% present when you're with the horse.
Yeah.
And there are hundreds of different ways you can get into flow, and it's you can do it through extreme sports, yoga, meditation, music, art, and anyone who is a master of getting into flow state you can connect with. So, no matter how they do it, they completely understand it. And it's when it's just you and the horse, and, you lose track of time. And it's the same, I used to do quite a lot of artwork, and you'd lose yourself for hours. And then all of a sudden you come out of this trance, and 4 hours has passed and you're starving hungry and you really need a coffee, and then you're good to go again. But it's just being completely present in the moment, and losing yourself in it. And that is really the magic of horses and the magic of Liberty as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could I tie that into a question we've had in the comments? I've got an Alex Locke. How do you work Liberty with horses when you have depression? And
I was just going to bring that up. Thank you, Ben.
It's not something that goes away. What mental gymnastics or help can be done to improve working with horses? Like, I saw something online the other day. It said, do people with depression like horses, or does working with horses give us depression? Because it seems to suck us all into this one world. I think what Mia was just talking about is something that's always helped me. I've struggled with my mental health mildly publicly, but to anyone close to me, quite drastically, all my life from being about 13. I don't have any brilliant reasons why. I just have. And one of the best things about horses is if you can just, no matter what's going on, no matter how bad it is, you can be there for them. They don't know what else is going on in your life. They don't judge you. They don't hold resentment. It's just about you and them. If you can find that flow state, it can take you away from that. Don't put pressure on yourself with that time with the horse. I said this a lot in our last talk on here, and I think I'll bang on about it throughout my entire career with horses, but enjoy the journey. You can only fail if your happiness relies upon a goal. So just enjoy the path towards the goal. That's something that I've always done to try and bolster myself when I'm having those low days with the horses. And some days you're too low. Some days maybe you shouldn't work the horses. So just be with them. I'm pretty sure that Malik thinks that one of our tricks is that if I sit in the corner of his stable, he comes and puts his head on my face because it's like a trained movement by now. But there's nowhere better if you need someone to talk to or to be with than with a horse, I think.
Yeah, completely agree.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's a conversation that probably a lot of people in today's day and age actually have, and about what kind of state of mind they ought to be in or work towards. And Ben, I really appreciate you. In fact, applaud you for speaking so publicly about it. It's something that more of us need to confront.
I think it's definitely a real Instagram versus reality thing. There have been days where I've posted things that have gone viral and everyone's like, oh, I wish I was you. And I'm sat in the corner of a stable crying because I'm struggling to put left foot in front of right foot. But I'm good at the moment, so we're all great.
Good. Well, you look like you're good today. Well, I was going to say something to that too. Some of you might know that we run a project in Brazil called Horses for Orphans. So the children, the street children that come to us, they either are street children or they're orphans or semi-orphans, but they don't have a life. They don't have a family. They don't have a people group that they can rely on, that cares for them, that they can fall back on. Because, most of us, no matter how our relationships are in a family, it's still family, right? And they're there. There's people there that love you, that will take care of you, and so on. They don't have that. So they have no roots at all. So they severely struggle with their mental health. Then there's a lot of fear and anxiety, and they come from such broken backgrounds. And what we have found, even with little children, even getting into the proximity of a horse, just learning to be present with the horse, being with the horse, putting your hands on the horse, because the horse has such a large heart, the electromagnetic fields that the horse creates, I think it goes 1.5 meters around the horse. It slows a person's heart rate down. It lowers people's blood pressure. Yeah, no. And children can arrive like this, and then 10-15 minutes with a horse just standing there. But as an onlooker, you think, well, nothing is happening. We're not doing anything. It's not this. It's the horse's being and his heart rate, and that electromagnetic field has this calming effect on the heart rate, on the blood pressure, and increases the well-being. And all of us, everyone that loves horses, we don't just love to train. We love to be alone with our horse, smell their noses, snuggle with them when nobody's watching, kiss them on the nostrils when really nobody's watching, and just feel them and smell them and be with them, right? Just sitting there in the stable. And Ben, I bet you were sitting in the stable with a horse, right? Not in a stable without one. When you're trying.
Always.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Yeah, you don't say in the stable without a horse. You just
no.
Always with a horse. Yes.
Yeah. I was actually going to say something, but then I got carried away listening to you because it was so powerful. I hate it when that happens. But I think we're about less than 5 minutes before our scheduled close of play. And I've been saying this I know time's flown, right? And we need to do this again. And I think it'll become like a regular feature because even the Cavago Social, like so many people got in touch saying, when is the next one? I'm like, next one? Yes, of course, next one. And I have to say this, like, I've just been a ceremonial piece on Cavago Social. The people who really put this together are Anam Mukri, you guys have been in touch with her. Caroline, Lauren, I had to call them out because they've been phenomenal. Alina and Meher. Yeah, and we're talking like they're in 4 or 5 different parts of the world, and they've all collaborated just to make this happen, including like 2 a.m. calls just to make sure that they can organize all the speakers, and they know how to use the tool, etc. So a massive thank you to them.
Yes.
It'd be wrong for me not to mention them by name. I may have
thanks
missed.
to you, Taz, as well.
I'm a ceremonial piece.
Yeah.
I'm just a ceremonial piece. I'm just. but I've enjoyed like hosting it, and I particularly enjoy this because for me, home base is natural horsemanship, or call it what you will. It's just a colloquial term, but it's really just a way of being. I have two things to ask of you guys, right? And one comment. I think one of those is the comment I'll start with is that one of the ways we're looking to help hosts, particularly through the pandemic, and Ingela does her online courses, and she presents them via Cavago. And that's one way that we're helping other horse businesses who can't necessarily receive guests, but they still have something valuable to teach. And so what we're doing is we're really finding ways that we can help horse businesses. And so that is something that we definitely will encourage. My purpose is to help our hosts succeed on the platform. And there's so many things that we're doing in the background that you learn over time. But I'll share a short story with you. Just earlier today, I got a series of texts from a gentleman in Turkey who owns a horse facility. And he said, look, we're really struggling because people can't visit us. And we have this lovely place. And we're struggling to feed our horses. And like literally my heart went out to him thinking, how can we help these people? So Cavago really is a platform that finds ways to help horse businesses across the board, right? We're talking about, for example, insurance to make that more effective and easier for our hosts and our guests, etc. That's just one such example. There's several others in the pipeline. So I'm asking for all of us to make a movement, okay? And that movement is that we're going to make a selfie video, and it has 3 lines, okay? And I want the whole world to say that we as a horse community are good. We're good, all right? Which is, this is me, this is my horse, and in the background you do something creative and you say, we're having a party. Okay. Just to tell the world we're good. And this is to reach out to every single horse person, every single horse, every single facility to say, we are good, we've got your back. And that's just something that we're starting as a movement to remind everyone of all the horse businesses and all the horse people that are either flourishing or struggling. One way or another, we're going to be there for each other. So that's that point. I just remembered what I was going to say. Can I say that?
Yeah.
It reflects what Ingela was saying about the magnetic energy field. I actually put out a piece of paper, like a file, to remind me to say it right now. And there was a study done like almost 15 years ago where they put a heart rate monitor on a horse and a heart rate monitor on the person, right? And almost every single time, both the heart rates began to mirror each other.
Really?
I can share that study with you. I'll share it via email. It's called Why Horses Can Help Humans. But it was an actual study that was done of over like 60 different horse and human pairs or something. But that was a really cool study, reinforcing the discussion that we're having. Now that I've remembered what I had to say, I will finish off with one final act, one final request, okay? If you go on our Instagram, or your Instagram, all right? And in your stories, we've actually created a Cavago filter, okay? You'll see the Cavago logo, all right? And it looks kind of like that, okay? And if you put it on your face, a horse turns up on your cheek, okay? The horse turns up on your cheek. Oh. And above it says, 2021 Cavago Social, I was there. Yeah. Can we do that? Just
same because, as last time?
Same as last time, right? There, I just did it, and I'm gonna post this. Am I supposed to tag someone? I think I'm supposed to tag someone. Right?
Wait, how do I get the filter? Remember, I'm the grandma in this chat here.
Yeah,
Adam, can you send the filter to Ingela and Mia? I'm gonna send it to you guys.
I've got the filter. I'll post it, you tag. We're on.
We can get a song, you know.
Ben, you rock! My goodness. I need to come for lessons. Instagram lessons. I can come for other lessons too, right?
I'll sort it. Yeah, you can teach me how to work horses, and I'll teach you how to work Instagram. That's fair trade. Maybe that. You can teach me the capriole. I want to learn that. Yeah. That's the one thing. Remember, I have not done that.
I love it.
I totally do. We trade, Ben.
We need to do it. Someone, can I just say as well, I hope you don't mind me saying, someone in the comments has just said we were going to talk Piaffe. We were going to talk Piaffe. We got distracted. But if you go over to my page, I have just released a film on Piaffe. So
yes, great. Go buy that.
So go and have a look. And it costs less than half of a private lesson with me, and you've got it forever. And it's Piaffe from start to finish.
That's brilliant.
Sorry. Awesome.
That's brilliant. We're definitely going to talk Piaffe, and we should talk.
I hate selling things. It makes me feel awful, but there.
No, man. We're all very grateful you're filming. We're grateful you're filming and releasing things, so then everybody can learn. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's exactly like Ingela. It's exactly like Ingela. You guys have something so powerful to share. And I think you should put your link in the comments here.
Oh my goodness.
Somebody's asked for it. Because you guys have something so powerful to share, and you've got video footage.
On the bottom, you need to click chat at the top. Chat.
Yeah, I know where that is, but I don't know where the link to my.
Somebody's on it.
Someone's on it.
Alex has done it.
Alex is on it.
Look at that.
Right.
Got my back.
That's good.
You guys are good. This was awesome, and I think next time we'll have to talk about Piaffe and perhaps Capriole.
Yes, perhaps.
Right.
I said this last time, but we need to do it longer.
Yeah, you know what? I realized that. Yeah, I realized that. Like, I felt like I'd spoken to Karen Roth for all of 5 minutes, and I was like, "Oh, you're one of my role models." Like, come on, you know. But with that, don't forget the video when you're next to your horse. This is me. This is my horse, and we're having a party. And it's a message to the horse.
I'll have to be really creative because I'm in lockdown.
You will have to be a bit creative. You'll have to. Yeah.
No problem. You see that picture on the wall? I can dance with it.
He looks like Salty. He does look like Salty. Yeah. I was gonna say Zippy, but Zippy would look sleepier. Anyway, Zippy.
Yeah. Anyway. More sleepy. Yeah.
With that, guys.
Hey, what about the courses, Taz?
The courses. Yes, the online.
When are we gonna do a course?
Okay, Ben and Mia, I'm going to pin you guys down, okay?
Oh, my goodness.
By popular demand.
It was the other girl, Taz.
Oh, yeah, Yolanda. Yolanda from last time.
Yolanda better than myself.
I mentioned this to Ingela. From last time, we've got enough people asking us, when are you guys doing this joint clinic?
Oh, we're doing it. Yeah, but I want to do it real.
I mean real. I'm saying we're
real people,
or Mia's place real,
face to face real.
Yeah, face to face real.
I'm still trying to come in May to the UK, Ben.
Yeah, and we can train Capriole.
Yes.
So Ingela's coming over in May, and we're gonna organize that in May. I am gonna try and set up something in Singapore. I'm not kidding. I'm serious, and probably Dubai.
I've never been to Singapore.
This is an open invitation. Okay. And this is something Cavago will get behind. So the UK one is probably May, if you can travel and get there, all that stuff. All right. And then the Dubai and Singapore leg will also happen. That's on me. So you guys have heard it. It's live on YouTube. You can't go back. Okay. You've had a horse plastered on your face with.
not yet.
Right. So with that, as I always say, may the horse be with you.
Oh, come on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Taz. Thanks, Mia.
Thank you very much.
It was fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.